Hello, beautiful people. Shout out to the late night looters in particular. How you doing? It is late Sunday evening, but I'm amped up. So I'm amped up and I have new information. So here we are. Shout out to the replay gang, particularly folks on the East Coast or wherever you are waking up tomorrow snowed in. Uh, be safe. Go Hawks. Just had the most stressful couple of hours. That was the most stressful game of the season. The Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl as of 5 minutes ago. It's still, I can still hear the booms. I can hear the fireworks when they set them off at the stadium. It's on the other side of the hill from me. There's the other side of the hill, and then there's, the freeway, and then there's an industrial area, and then there's and then there's the stadiums. But basically, there's a hill in between me and the stadium, and it's like clockwork. I was like, cue that it was like boom, boom, boom. So I can hear them. I can't see them, but of course, other people are also setting off fireworks. It's Boom City right now in Seattle, and boy, they made it a nail biter. Jesus Christ, we almost lost that game off of some dumb ish. We almost lost that game off some dumb ish of our own doing. Absolutely ridiculous. So, uh, yeah, but it's done. It's done. It's done. So, TikTok is down. TikTok has been down for over 12 hours. And I started off thinking that this was a glitch due to the change in ownership, but I no longer think that. I think glitch is a convenient excuse. I no longer think TikTok being down for over 12 hours is a glitch. I think I think that it's intentional. I think that they're taking the opportunity to do a bunch of things. I definitely think coding is happening, and I think algorithm adjusting is happening, and I think also uh, I have absolutely nothing to base this off of. This is just in my own head, okay? But I think also that they just decided today of all days, with everything that is going on in Minneapolis and uh, just how much TikTok has been a central point for dissemination of information. Um, they just decided we're not going to give the most popular people access to their accounts. And for anybody who's left on the platform, we're going to run you cooking tutorials and an ad for this and that. And did you miss this Christmas video when it came out at Christmas? You should watch it again. What about this Thanksgiving video? You should watch this Thanksgiving video from this person you've never heard of before. Oh, and can we sell you something? Again, it's just been the same 20 posts all day long. And I've checked, you know, major news outlets, popular TikTokers, all they're out. The last time they posted was yesterday. So that's my conspiracy theory for funsies in my head for the day. It's been pretty fascinating to see just how uh out of service TikTok is right now. um so yeah, but nevertheless, we can always count on European countries and their publications to be on the ground in the United States of America, updating us on what is happening live, live blogging what is happening throughout the day in Minneapolis and in DC. Um, it's been an interesting series of events since this unfortunate situation happened yesterday. The government came out posturing all big and bad, right? Yesterday. When I say the government, I mean the feds. Um, and now today they have, changed their tune. Everybody from Gestapo Greg. I saw that. Gavin Newsom called Gregory Blavino Gestapo Greg. And as much as I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom, that's funny. And like right there, ripe for the picking, Gestapo Greg. It's just hanging out there for the taking. um, so everybody from Gestapo Greg to Kristi Noem to the President of the United States have all backpedaled and said, like, hey, we promise we're gonna get to the bottom of what happened. The NRA came out in opposition to the government and basically said, you get Alex Pretti's name out your filthy mouth. They said a bunch of other stuff too, but let's just focus on the gut punches. The NRA really basically said, I know you're not dragging that man. Missouri also has a bunch of companies there. Everything from United Healthcare, Free Luigi, to Target. And these mofos had the nerve to, start putting out statements and stuff, calling for people to tone it down. I said, I know Target isn't talking. Alex said, United Healthcare CEO is issuing statements for Beyond the Grave. And that is just, come on now. All gun violence is bad, but nevertheless, touche. But still, I was like, I know Target ain't talking. I know Target ain't talking. Because the economic violence done to Black people through Donald Trump's DEI, and you motherfuckers just jumped on board first. I know you ain't wagging your finger at motherfuckers talking about, let's everybody tone it down. Fuck you, Target. You're out your mind. The Obamas called bullshit. And Donald Trump in the past couple hours said, well, I mean, ICE isn't going to be there forever. We are going to leave. And of course, court filings have been flying fast and furious, which is what we started our morning with. If you don't know, we had a live at 7:00 this morning. Now we have a live at 7 p.m. I didn't even do that on purpose. It's just happening. But we had a live at 7:00 this morning, looking at the local law enforcement lawsuit against the federal law enforcement for basically obstruction of justice in the criminal investigation of the shooting of Alex Pretti. There's also the mayor, the governor, attorney general for the state. They've all filed their court actions as well and are, continuing to file emergency motions. But there are also a group of residents in Minnesota who I believe are represented by the ACLU. And they have also sued to get ICE out. And they had, sued for some emergency relief. Um, they were initially granted that. It was appealed by the government. The appellate court stayed the lower court's granting of their request, and so it never went into effect. So they have filed an emergency motion asking for reconsideration and for the stay to be lifted to, stop ICE operations. And as as a part of filing their emergency action, they have filed 2 declarations from witnesses to yesterday. And I thought that these were important to get on the record because all power to the people. And also because, insofar as I can tell, across the various court actions that have been filed, these are the first "I declare under penalty of perjury" statements submitted by residents of Minneapolis. Oh, the NRA know how to talk? I know. There are times where I can't even remember if they are technically even still a corporation. They went through so much nonsense a couple years back. I'm like, didn't they fold altogether? I don't really know. They're definitely not as prominent as they were. But yeah, they found their voice on this one. And of course, they have political partisan stuff to say. But on yesterday, all over social media, people were saying, "So where you 2A folks at? Second Amendment. Where the 2A people at?" And the video is fairly unequivocal. He is disarmed. First of all, he never brandishes his weapon as the government says he did. Never. Never moves for it. We don't know he had a gun until the video is studied. And then you see that he is disarmed by ICE before he's shot. Now, there's a bunch of, analysis about whether or not the person who took his gun accidentally fired it, setting off a chain of events. But what seems to be unequivocal is that local law enforcement believes that Alex Pretti was shot by more than one person. So, yeah, this is why you need investigations to figure out what exactly is the full sequence of events. But yes, there is a lot of video. But this is the first, or these are the first, "I swear under penalty of perjury. This is what I saw. This is what I experienced." Oh boy. Yep, I laughed. There are going to be some people who are going to be like, "You cold-hearted." I laughed. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm not your moral barometer. Okay. I'm not. Um yeah, imagine. Yeah, I couldn't believe that. You all got the nerve. The nerve. So it's interesting to see the posture that the government is taking today, but until they are fully on their knees, it's not enough insofar as I'm concerned. So from emergency action filed by, again, a group of individuals and others similarly situated. So I'm not sure if the intent is to get this certified as a class action, but there's certainly language that suggests they may um, be attempting to do that at some point. I'm not really sure. So the docket reflects that the full declaration, unredacted, is filed under seal. So we have the redacted version. Obviously, witness's name is redacted from the public to protect them because people are crazy. So I redacted declare as follows. I am a resident of the Whittier neighborhood in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am over 18 years of age. I am a children's entertainer who specializes in face painting. On Saturday, January 24, 2026, at about 8:50 a.m., I was getting ready to go to work when I heard whistles outside. I knew the whistles meant that ICE agents were in the area, so I decided to check it out on my way to work. I've been involved in observing in my community because it is so important to document what ICE is doing to my neighbors. Connecting to your local community and knowing who your neighbors are is something I profoundly value. Me too. I drove to Nicollet Avenue in 26 where I could hear the whistles coming from. I turned south onto Nicollet. There were already several ICE agents there, and they'd set up a sort of vehicle convoy on Nicollet and 28th. There were also about 15 observers there recording and observing ICE. I saw ICE agents surrounding cars and punching car windows. I also saw them stopping vehicles further down Nicollet, so I backed up because I didn't feel safe continuing on. I noticed a man sort of acting to help traffic move more smoothly. He helped me find a place to park. I got out with my whistle and my camera. I went over to him and said something like, I'm going to film and use my whistle. It seemed like most ICE activity was happening a little farther down the street from us near 27th. Someone was being thrown to the ground. I started recording. There was an agent by a car across the street. Two observers were a few feet away from the agent blowing their whistles. One was wearing a backpack. I and the man who was observing and helping direct traffic were standing in the street. There was a phone in the man's hand recording a video. An agent approached and asked us to back up, so I moved slowly back onto the sidewalk. The man stayed in the street filming as the other observers I mentioned earlier were being forced backward by another ICE agent, threatening them with the pepper spray. The man went closer to support them as they got threatened, just with his camera out. I didn't see him reach for or hold a gun. Then the ICE agent shoved one of the other observers to the ground. Then he started pepper spraying all three of them directly in the face and all over. The man with the phone put his hands above his head, and the agent sprayed him again and pushed him. Then the man tried to help up the woman the ICE agent had shoved to the ground. The ICE agent just kept spraying. More agents came over and grabbed the man who was still trying to help the woman get up. All three of the observers looked to have been badly affected by the pepper spray. I could feel the pepper spray in my eyes. The agents pulled the man on the ground. I didn't see him touch any of them. He wasn't even turned toward them. It didn't look like he was trying to resist, just trying to help the woman up. I didn't see him with a gun. They threw him to the ground. 4 or 5 agents had him on the ground and they just started shooting him. They shot him so many times. I don't know why they shot him. He was only helping. I was 5 feet from him and they just shot him. The video I recorded of what happened accurately depicts the events leading up to the agents shooting him and several minutes afterwards. The video is attached as Exhibit 1. I have read the statement from DHS about what happened, and it is wrong. The man did not approach the agents with a gun. He approached them with a camera. He was just trying to help a woman get up, and they took him to the ground. I feel afraid. Only hours have passed since they shot a man right in front of me, and I don't feel like I can go home because I heard agents were looking for me. I don't know what the agents will do when they find me. I do not know that they're not telling the truth about I do know that they're not telling the truth about what happened. I've heard that other witnesses might have been arrested and taken to the Whipple building. I am disgusted and gutted at how they are treating my neighbors and my state. I keep alternating between crying and feeling determined. It is important to remember the value of documenting injustice. We show up for the people who need us to bear witness because it can't just be one group of people bearing the brunt of their tyranny. This is a struggle to protect our freedom and democracy. Those things are on the line. He lost his life for those values. I declare under penalty of perjury that everything I have stated in this document is true and correct. Dated yesterday. Oh, boy. This second declaration is submitted by a doctor. I am a 29-year-old resident of the blank neighborhood in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have lived in Minneapolis since 2024, when I moved to the city to begin my medical residency. I am a licensed pediatrician, and I have been practicing pediatric medicine in the city since I moved here. On January 24, 2026, at approximately 9 a.m., I was awoken by the sound of cars honking and whistles blowing. Shortly after I awoke, I heard screaming from outside my window. I redacted, saw several ICE agents and civilians yelling at each other. One civilian was standing in front of a parked car on the side of the road. I saw him yelling at the ICE agents, but I did not see him attack the agents or brandish a weapon of any kind. Suddenly, an ICE agent shoved him to the ground. My view of the altercation was partially obstructed, but after a few seconds, I saw at least 4 ICE agents point guns at the man. Wow. I saw at least 4 ICE agents point guns at the man. I then saw the agents shoot the man at least 6 or 7 times. Initially, I was stunned. From what I could see from my apartment, there was absolutely no need for any violence, let alone lethal force by multiple officers. I immediately put on my boots and coat, ran outside, and approached ICE agents who were near the victim. The scene was chaotic. Many civilians were screaming and honking. Over the noise, I informed the ICE agents that I am a physician, and I asked to assess the victim. At first, the ICE agents wouldn't let me through. They repeatedly asked me for my physician's license, which I obviously didn't have, but none of the ICE agents who were near the victim were performing CPR, and I could tell that the victim was in critical condition. I insisted that the agents let me assess him. Normally, I would not have been so persistent, but as a physician, normally, I would not have been so persistent, but as a physician, I felt a professional and moral obligation to help this man, especially since none of the agents were helping him. Finally, one agent agreed to let me assess the victim. He patted me down to make sure I didn't have a weapon and then let me approach the victim. As I approached, I saw the victim was lying on his side and was surrounded by several ICE agents. I was confused as to why the victim was on his side because that is not standard practice when a victim has been shot. Checking for a pulse and administering CPR is standard practice. Instead of doing either of those things, the ICE agents appeared to be counting his bullet wounds. I asked the ICE agents if the victim had a pulse, and they said they did not know. I then asked the agents to make space so I could assess the victim. The victim had at least 3 bullet wounds in his back. I asked the ICE agents to turn the victim from his side to his back. From that position, I saw an additional gunshot wound on the victim's upper left chest and another possible gunshot wound on his neck. I checked for a pulse, but I did not feel one. I immediately began CPR. Shortly after I started compressions, EMS personnel arrived and took over. I remained at the scene for about 5 more minutes, but protesters began to gather and the situation seemed to be escalating, so I left and returned to my apartment. When I returned to my apartment, I was extremely distraught. I was sobbing and shaking uncontrollably. Eventually, I called my sister, who lives in a nearby suburb. I called her for comfort, and because I did not feel safe in my apartment, I wanted to see if I could stay with her for the day and maybe even a few days. I also sought advice from a friend who works for the city of Minneapolis. He recommended that I shelter in place because the situation outside my apartment was so dangerous. I was going to follow his advice, but then ICE agents deployed tear gas on the ground that had gathered below, and the tear gas began seeping into my apartment. At that point, I did not feel like I could stay in my apartment any longer. I packed an overnight bag, took the elevator down to the parking garage, and drove about 6 blocks to a friend's house. I was still crying and shaking at this point, and I was barely able to speak. I drove to my friend's house because it was close, and I wanted time to collect myself before driving 30 minutes to my sister's house. I am devastated by the killing of a Minnesotan by multiple federal immigration agents. From what I could tell, the victim was not actively threatening ICE agents or the public. He was just yelling at the agents because he objected to ICE's presence in our city. A person should not be shot and killed for lawfully expressing their opinions. I am not sure when I will return to my apartment. I do not feel safe in my city. In less than 1 month, ICE agents have shot and killed 2 people for protesting and observing their actions. I worry that I or someone I love will be shot and killed for voicing their displeasure and being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I declare under penalty of perjury that everything I have stated in this document is true and correct. Really does look like a doctor's handwriting. Mm. Well, well, those are very powerful statements. And having been a victim and a witness to unspeakably violent crime, um, I know what that feels like in your body. I know what that feels like in your body to be terrified um, by gun violence, literally, physically terrified and traumatized. And it's been over a decade, and I still live with residual effects, emotional and physical. The Democrats appear to be trying to get their heads on straight. as I shared with you the other day, there is always a fucking conference call. Okay, there is a conference call with Democratic lawmakers every goddamn day, and these phone calls are so annoying. Um, the Democrats seem to be strongly coalescing around really trying to do everything they can to try and impeach Kristi Noem. That's one thing. Um, the more important thing, in my opinion, and I've been talking about this for since Nicole Good. So in typical fashion, they take for fucking ever to come around to the point. And I'm certainly not the only one. They're hearing this on all sides. They just don't want to do it, which is go to Minneapolis. And now they're talking about sending a delegation to Minneapolis. Boots on the ground. I hope they actually do it because it's long overdue, in my and many people's opinion. Yeah, good for her. I'm not impressed with her in the slightest bit. I just want to be perfectly honest with you. I've never been more disgusted with a Democratic lawmaker than when I saw her outside government agencies with a picket sign when Trump started just arbitrarily shutting shit down. That's not the move. So, um, I've never been massively impressed by her. Um, she's steady, which is great, but she's not impressive to me. So, uh, yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to see just how much this is being covered around the world. I think that honestly has an impact on Donald. I don't think he likes that very much because that's a narrative that he can't even begin to fight and win. It's just a stain. And I don't think it's something that he anticipated. The world is watching and reporting and sending reporters over on the ground in all different languages. They're talking about ICE and Minneapolis. The other thing that I saw is the 5-year-old little boy who was detained by ICE and has since been locked up by ICE. Apparently has been separated from his father in detention. And the people that are being held in the detention center with this little 5-year-old boy are protesting the fact that he's there. That's incredible. People in detention are protesting in detention that little boy is in there. Gestapo Greg was asked point blank to his face, was Alex Pretti armed when he was shot? And he wouldn't answer the question. He just kept demurring to, there needs to be a full investigation to establish the facts of what happened. Oh, I thought you determined that yesterday. Even though you weren't there, didn't see the evidence, video to the contrary. I thought you determined that yesterday. I used to do a lot of work around officer-involved shootings. This was a long time ago. And, kind of as I was coming to the end of that chapter, um, is right around the time hold on. I was telling people that my prediction is that TikTok is gonna be shut down until tonight, or they'll let everybody back in tomorrow, and I just got a message from my son. He's like, "I'm back. I'm back." Anyway, yeah, I think they did all that shit on purpose. Anyway, what was I saying? I'm so sorry. I had a point, and then I lost it. Oh, okay. I used to work, around police related do a lot of work around police issues. Okay, so kind of as I was coming to the end of that chapter and I had established all of my relationships, right? Um, and my integrity with those relationships. The Seattle Police Department murdered a pregnant woman in front of her young children. And some of the angriest phone calls that I got of people who were distraught over that were people who were in law enforcement because they understood. Number one, number one, she should not have been shot. That was their, independent, behind closed doors. This is what should have happened. But then also because they knew that it was going to make their job harder. And that's a factor in this situation. When we have law enforcement agencies suing the federal government, it's because when the feds are gone, when Donald pulls them out and they're gone, the people left with the residual mess are local law enforcement, from your beat cops to your prosecutors. They're the ones that are left with the residual mess. The increased distrust, the lack of accountability, the unrest sits with them. And they know that in Minneapolis because this is not their first dance. And the governor said, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but I thought, oh, that's a really good a good line right there. The governor said recently in some remarks, if Donald Trump was trying to make an example out of Minnesota, I am proud of the example that Minnesota has shown the world. And I was just like, oh, that is some of the squarest, greatest jab back ever, ever. because he's right, and it's painfully bitter to say, but you see the impact of peaceful protest, right? Of course, you can see the impact of just unrest and violence, but you see the impact of peaceful protest. You see the impact of he was not doing anything wrong, and they murdered him in the street like it was target practice. Applauding, counting the bullet holes. I know that there are people in law enforcement who are ripping their fucking hair out because you gotta be fucking kidding me. They have residents up their ass for how they conduct a routine traffic stop, and these motherfucking rent-a-cops are running through the city, beating, kidnapping, and shooting people, and calling themselves police. Yeah, no. This is exactly right. Amy, no one can hurt law enforcement's public image like law enforcement itself can. That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. I have an associate who, a long time ago, um, was on the receiving end of a beatdown by law enforcement, local law enforcement, was racially profiled, picked on, and then summarily beaten, beaten, a pylon, the whole thing. And he was charged with some ridiculous trifecta, resisting arrest, obstruction of justice, and assaulting a police officer, I believe it was. And the police tried to take him to the county jail, and the county jail took one look at him and was like, "We can't, he needs to go to the hospital. We're not, no, nah, no, this one needs, no." And I had a lengthy conversation with him about it at one point. This is something that was witnessed, by other people, and it turned into a big thing. It was an early case of something that got attention and national attention. And several years after it had happened, I had an opportunity to have a lengthy conversation with him about what that experience was like. And one of the things that he said to me was that at the point that they all piled on top of him and he was having a difficult time breathing, he could tell that they were enjoying it, that it was physically exciting to them to be doing this to him. And I have never, ever, ever forgotten that. He said, "You could feel the energy." shift from just brute force for the sake of brute force to this shared enjoyment, unspoken, shared physical enjoyment that they were all experiencing while damn near killing him with their bodies, just with their bodies. I have never, ever, ever, ever forgotten that. And every time I see something like Alex Pretti when I think about this brother. I think about him. He went through a world of BS, but writing was on the wall in terms of charges. The court was like, "Oh, look at you, charged with the trifecta." Sued and all of that, but yeah, the physical enjoyment of it and the feeding off of each other and just there was no end in sight. There was no end in sight. Yeah, I'd never heard that kind of a candid description before, but it chilled me. And I have a friend who is a doctor, who wrote an op-ed a couple years ago about all of the body cam videos that we've seen. And described it kind of similarly. And the chokehold deaths on body cam. And I think particularly these observations coming from Black men, one an artist, the other a doctor, seemingly worlds apart from each other, very different but shared, life experiences being Black men, and observations made 20, 25 years apart from each other. Um, I think it's a profound insight into the motivations of men who are supremacists. These government agents are on a brutality orgy. You see instances in overexploited nations where they have civil conflict, or they have, ragtag, undisciplined, military or law enforcement, and then civil conflict over a prolonged amount of time. Typically, they always start, if they're not already, they always start using pharmaceuticals en masse in order to do their job. And there have been times over the past couple weeks where I've looked at ICE agents and wondered, I wonder how long these folk can keep going before they need to pop some pills before they can do their damn shift. Thank you, beautiful. I don't have my glasses on, so I think that says M. Marquise and not RN Marquise. What is the duty of the local police to protect the citizens and potentially with force? Is that unrealistic? In parentheses, of course it is. So I talked about this the other day. Local law enforcement has an obligation to enforce local law no matter who is breaking the law. That's what it says on paper. Okay. Nobody is above the law. The law applies to everybody. And you see law enforcement leaders, captains, whatever, right? Superintendents standing up and saying just that. But you do not see their police officers arresting federal agents when they see them break the law. And that is because I would imagine, I'm just spitballing here for funsies in my head, that that is because they don't want to get into that kind of a standoff with the federal government. They're afraid to do that as cops, as their unions, as their departments, as their cities or counties, who knows, right? But it's unheard of. It is unheard of that a local police officer would intervene into what a federal agent is doing and saying, "You're breaking the law and I'm placing you under arrest." It is unheard of for that to happen. It is unheard of for local law enforcement to sue the federal government and accuse them outright of obstruction of justice and request a temporary restraining order to prevent the destruction or spoliation of evidence. That is unheard of. And they did that shit this morning. And that is rare, but so necessary, but rare. It's one thing if the prosecutor goes and, goes before a grand jury and a grand jury indicts and they swear out a warrant to arrest a federal officer. That's different, right? Then they're just executing a warrant. But to make the decision, we're going to start arresting motherfuckers, that's a department decision, that's a union decision. And the unions are constantly putting out statements saying, "We stand with ICE." The International Federation of Brotherhood of Policing, or whatever the fuck it's called, right after Renee Good put out a statement that said, "We stand with ICE." We don't know what the fuck these local chiefs and sheriffs are talking about. We stand with ICE. So, in theory, yeah. In practice, it hasn't happened yet. But I think that ICE is really testing it. They're detaining off-duty cops. Detaining them. That's a crime. You don't have a judicial warrant for me. That's a crime. I'm a police officer being illegally detained. That's a crime. So, the lawsuit filed yesterday, which Jesus Christ, it's been the longest 24 hours ever. Um, the lawsuit filed yesterday by the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Hennepin County Prosecuting Attorney's Office is truly historic and unprecedented. And, they're squarely accusing the federal government of obstruction of justice. And I think they're going to be successful in everything that they do in court, personally. I think that this backpedaling of the federal government, I think their response is gonna be, "Nuh-uh, we're gonna do an investigation. We got it." But why can't they do an investigation alongside your investigation? Why can't local officials have access to the evidence? There is no justification. None. There's no justification that a court is gonna say, "The feds are right. You can't have access to this." That's bullshit. That's not gonna happen. So, yeah, that was a reporter who did that. Hi, beautiful. Good to see you. Thank you for the $10 contribution. Appreciate your support. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot, but it's manageable. It really is. It's manageable. I know that people feel tired and they feel overwhelmed. And we're going to continue to feel that way until we push through to the other side. Something's got to give or something's going to break. And we don't know what's going to happen first. Is something going to give or is something going to break? But the government is certainly on the back foot on this one, and they know it. They're in trouble. Republicans are very good at towing the party line in public, but then ripping ass behind closed doors. And, my whole point to what I was saying earlier, I'm a little loopy. What I was saying earlier about law enforcement doesn't like when law enforcement is fucking up. Republicans are not happy about this. They're not blind. They're not dumb. They just have tighter public messaging. Um, and they're going to toe the party line. So, but behind closed doors, they also think Kristi Noem is a twat. So they're not impressed with any fucking thing that she's doing. And, they're concerned Gregory Bovino might be becoming a distraction. And they actually started grumbling that around Chicago. Because he started, a judge ordered him to come to court every fucking day and report to her personally the shit she wanted to know. So, they can't have the story become about a specific person. It needs to be it needs to feel bigger than that. It needs to feel like something people cannot overcome. But the people are starting to break it down into more digestible, fightable bite sizes. So, hi Jay Ray. Yeah, it's infuriating. Um, it's just infuriating. It's maddening. It's really just like WTF all the time. WTF all the time. So I don't think, this is gonna be resolved overnight. But you've also got the Democrats who are now also apparently trying to find a posture in the Senate on this budget that would give ICE $10 billion and that potentially leading to a partial government shutdown, which would be really unfortunate because the last one was stupid. Um, I say stupid because the Democrats folded and we didn't get what we wanted and the whole reason why the government shutdown happened. which was healthcare. And now Americans don't have healthcare. Um, this would be a partial shutdown. ICE would still be working. And but nevertheless, it would still be you know, a wrench in the gear. Um, but I have no fucking faith in them. You know, I think people are still gonna get shot. That's what I think. Let me also be perfectly clear about that. I think people are still gonna get shot. I think we're a long way from there being calm because I think ICE agents are out of control. And I think communication to them is not even systematic or cohesive. When you've got, DHS posting messages to rank and file via X, what the fuck? Walmart does a better job communicating policies to its employees than DHS is doing with regard to ICE or Border Patrol for that matter. So, hey, Mika Red. Good to see you. Well, I've already said that. That's because everybody who invaded the Capitol works for ICE. Yeah. Yeah, they're Stephen Miller, this is his baby. And but the other thing that Donald is really good for, this is a part of his strategy, is that when he's about to lose bigly, he abandons whatever it is so that he doesn't get precedent established in the jurisdiction where they're doing fuckery. TROs, extended TROs, okay, fine. But final decisions that set a precedent that could benefit other states, they will pull up stakes and bail before then. So that's probably also something that the federal government is looking at is there's already major lawsuits against them over Minneapolis. There's probably going to be more. The family has to be preparing to sue fucking everybody. Um so when he says things like, I mean, eventually we're going to leave. So arbitrary. That's one of the determinations for leaving. It's not necessarily public popularity, he doesn't care. Behind closed door pressure from certain stakeholders, he does care. Public embarrassment overseas, he does care. Precedent that could damage them, he cares. So my assumption would be that when they pull out of Minneapolis, they're going to go to another state and another city, and they're going to start it all over again because ultimately the legal fight starts over again from square one. So, baby, forever. Forever, ever, 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 ever. They never fail. They never fail. It's annoying. Well, they said they're going to Philly. I think the snowstorm has kind of messed them up with that. But they said that they're going to Philly. They've gone everywhere that they said they're gonna go, and they're not apparently ever trying to surprise a city. Also, they're one of the leakiest fucking organizations coming or going, just porous as hell. So they couldn't keep it a secret if they tried, right? But they've said they're going to Philly, and we'll see. We'll see. But they're not gonna let up for you forced to. And if you're wondering what forced to looks like, it looks like ICE agents being charged with felonies, whether it's murder or some other homicide charge, whether it's felony obstruction of justice or destruction or tampering of evidence or whatever. That's what it looks like. You can't get a federal pardon when you're convicted on local crimes. Yeah. I'm not sure if that was the Philly police chief or not, or if that was a sheriff in one of the local jurisdictions. But again, they all talk big. Every single city where they've, especially, in progressive metropolitan areas, where they have said we're coming, law enforcement has stood up and talked big shit. And then their officers are present standing there while ICE agents break the law and violate people's rights and court orders. So they can talk all the big shit they want until local cops start putting handcuffs on these motherfuckers. It's all just big talk. It's like, what's the difference between the public PR statement and what's the difference between what's on the docket? You know? And when that happens, that will be, boy, that'll be a threshold cross that we can never come back from. When a police officer says, "No, you put your gun down," in the act of something happening. When they see ICE agents unprovokedly ram a car and then flee the scene, do they pursue? Do they detain and arrest? Whatever the crime is that they witness, do they do something about it in the moment? So far, no. And there have been plenty of cities where cops were seeing shit happen with their own eyes, and they're not doing anything. What they're doing is telling protesters, "You are unlawfully gathered. If you don't disperse, we're going to arrest you." That's what they're doing. So, but I will say shout out to the National Guard in Minneapolis because them motherfuckers woke up this morning and handed out coffee and donuts and hot cocoa to protesters, and people set up giving mutual aid. I know if there is one thing that has pissed off the Trump administration in the last 24 hours, it is waking up to images on social media of the motherfucking National Guard handing out donuts and cocoa to protesters and volunteers. I said this is fucking hilarious. It's also genius. It's the best way to show up under the circumstances. Under the circumstances, it's the best way they could show up. You don't want us here. We don't really want to be here. We will arrest you if you break the law. But this morning, we have donuts and we have cocoa, and they are walking up to people who are like, fuck you, you don't need to be here. If ICE wasn't here, they're like, you want a donut? Cocoa, coffee. I was like, oh man, this is what de escalation looks like. That's fucking hilarious. Don't get it twisted. They will arrest your ass tonight. But for now, do you want a cup of cocoa? Oh man. Yeah. That's a checkmate for your ass right there. So, yeah, I don't know. This whole situation is fucked up, but it's also to me unavoidable. And I think it's all terrible. And my heart breaks for people and what people have to go through. But these systems cracking apart, I couldn't be happier, quite honestly, because they're all fucked up. All of these systems need to be exposed for how broken they are. We cannot carry into the future with these same broken ass systems. We just cannot. That's what the breaking of all these systems has shown us. And it took somebody like Donald Trump, who just doesn't give a fuck about anything, to break everything. And I think that's required for humanity. I don't think that necessarily means we're going to survive it because he's crazy. But it's the only way. It's like Doctor Strange with the I've been through how many different variables and there's one. That means we survive. That's kind of what we're in right now. There's a kitty cat. There's a Princey boy. He said, did she say my name? Princey boy. She did. She said my name. Hi, Princey. He's like, I am trying to bathe. Yeah, potentially it is. But you don't have a crystal ball, and that's not how they work. So, you know, if you want to be a Debbie Downer, you knock yourself out. I'm not an optimist, but I am a realist. And I've been clear from day one. We are in a total systems failure, and we may or may not survive. We'll see what happens. And it's largely not on us, as I've been saying the past couple days. We're all sitting around waiting for white people as a collective to figure it the fuck out. We can't teach them we tried. We can't tell them they don't listen. They got to learn it on their own. How you deal with a tyrannical government and fight for and protect your rights, and what it means when they're really threatened. And white people are largely in the "I can't believe this is happening" stage still. So we're a long way away and well behind the curve as a society of getting there. I hope white people get there in time, but they might not. They might not. And who would be surprised? Not I, said the Black indigenous woman. Oh, thank you, beautiful. And you're welcome. I do my best. Try and keep my crazy off camera. I don't have the energy for this tonight. And that's a rhetorically bullshit statement. I'm not going to debate with you about it. Glad you feel so strongly about it. We don't do reductive pancaking here. So I'm doing better now. We read some fucked up declarations earlier. Fucked up, but really important declarations. What I believe to be the first, you know, I swear under penalty of perjury. This is what I saw declarations on a court docket. And they're very powerful, but they're confronting as well. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. That boy is so committed to this bath right now. I'm a little irritated because he's doing it on my new couch. Couldn't be doing it on the floor. Got to do it on the couch in the spot where I was passed out during the Broncos Patriots boring ass football game. My God, that shit was so boring. Yep. Yep. Yeah, he's so serious about it. He was hiding because of the big booms. Yeah, he was hiding because of the big booms. I know, I'm giving him a hard time, but I am very glad that he is comfortable down here because my boy had a difficult time with this move. And so anytime he actually, is not in my room, I'm like, "Oh, good boy. Be comfortable," you know? He really does like that window. He loves that window. There's another window downstairs. I also have a camera nearby, so usually at nighttime, I'll get an alert that he's down there. I'll get a motion alert, and every time I check it, it's Princey sitting staring out the window. Such a sweetie pie. "Aren't you Princey?" He's like, "I'm not talking to you while you're over there talking to yourself." That the Broncos Patriots game was so boring. I fell asleep. I fell asleep. And the score didn't change from like the second quarter to the end of the game. I woke up in the fourth quarter like, it's still 7. You mean you motherfuckers been running around in the snow with the same score? Maybe I woke up, and caught that score, but I could have swore when I fell asleep it was 7-10, and that was in the second quarter. And I woke up in the fourth quarter, it was still 7-10, and then it finished 7-10. I was like, "Well, I'm so glad I slept through that." I am so glad I slept through that. I was not really nervous for the Seahawks game. They played pretty much the way I thought they were gonna play. I can tell pretty much right away whether or not the Seahawks are gonna have a good game or not, whether or not they're on game or off game. So I can tell right away they're on game. That's good. The Rams don't suck. So this is gonna be a battle at some point in time. When we went up When they dropped the ball and we recovered and we went up by 11, I was like, that should be the play that you look back on and go, "That's where we won the game." And then the penalty for taunting. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down, Rams with a touchdown, immediate touchdown. I was livid. And the only thing that I was looking for was to the sideline because we were still ahead, right? You won't lose the game because you gave them position and they scored. You'll lose the game because all the players are holding on by a fucking thread. And you gonna send them over the edge and they gonna fight on the sideline. They gonna have a complete meltdown, right? Just one trigger and they gonna have a complete meltdown. And had a little the tiniest little flare, and then they pulled it together, and the momentum did shift. The momentum did shift, and from then on out, it was anybody's game, and I was livid. I was like, "God damn it." It got to the 4th quarter, and I was like, "Oh, my heart." I can feel my heart beating in my chest, and then the last 4 minutes, I was like, "This is one of the most torturous fucking games ever." Ever. They got the ball back in the last 25 seconds. I said, "Jesus Christ." All I did was pace back and forth. That whole wall was just pace back and forth. Like, Jesus. Hello, beautiful. Yeah. I would have been pissed too because nobody wants to see that. I would have been pissed if the Rams would have won because I have no desire to see the Patriots, the Rams, or the Broncos in the Super Bowl. And we know here in Seattle what everybody wants. We don't necessarily want it because our hearts were ripped out of our chest still beating and stomped on the last time we played the Patriots in the damn Super Bowl. That was just, I've told you all, too traumatic to think about. But here we go. Back again. I think we have a distinct, we got a 50-50 shot. It's Seahawks for life here. So obviously I'm a root for my team, but the NFC Championship has always been the big dance for us. Today was the game that mattered the most, and we beat the Rams, and that's all I care about because I can't stand that fucking team. I can't stand the Rams. Can't stand them. I can't stand them. Oh. Yeah, Princey's been, prying open my closet and going in there, and I've been like, "Boy, no," because he's a furry little muffin butt. Look at him all loafed up. He's so cute. He looks all little. Big butt boy. Princey, a big back boy. That was the other thing that I noticed about him is his appetite completely changed. And that's not a bad thing because Princey big, so he could lose some weight. He could definitely lose some weight. Still drinking water and still eating, but just not the way that he was before. And I just keep telling myself it's okay. It's okay that he's eating less food. At first, it was like nothing, but now it's just less. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's the new normal. And that's great. He's not so beggy for food. He was definitely swaying me a lot before the move, where I'd just be like, okay, here. And now he's like, I'm not even really interested. So, but he seems to be doing fine. And I caught him playing the other day. I was like, okay, you starting to feel yourself. You starting to feel it. Yes, I'm talking about you. Cute little boy. I mean, so boring. I would not have I would watch the halftime show, but I would not watch any combination of Patriots, Broncos. Who the fuck was it? And I would not have watched any combination of the Rams. I'm not watching none of that shit. I'm not watching any combination of that. I don't want to see it. No, no. So I also don't like the Patriots, so I'm not particularly excited about playing them again, but I, I I would like to say that I don't care if we win the Super Bowl. I would like for my heart not to be stomped on like it was last time. Um, because the NFC Championship is our big dance, and I'm very pleased with the outcome, even though it was, yeah, I could feel at one point in time I was like, God damn, my heart is pounding. And then I was irritated. Fuck this game. God damn it. Hurry up and be over. Man. Oh, my boy is a chunk monster. He a big butt boy. Fly, Eagles, fly. Fly, Eagles, fly. For sure. So I'm glad that we put the nation out of its misery, because I know there are a lot of other people out there who can't stand the motherfucking Rams. So happy to help. Happy to help. We'll do our best, to finish the job in 2 weeks' time. We're gonna have to go through 2 weeks of people talking about the last time the Seahawks faced the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Mm, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm definitely not looking forward to 2 weeks of the last time the Seahawks faced the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And what's changed since then? Oh my God, it's gonna be so dumb. So I'm gonna avoid as much media as possible. I'm gonna avoid as much football media as possible. Just get me to the day. Just get me to the day. Get me to the game. I'm excited for the Super Bowl halftime show. And, now I'll have a game worth watching to go along with it, pretty much. Yeah, because I would have been irritated if it were the Rams in the Super Bowl and I gotta be, at least peripherally paying attention so I don't miss the halftime show. Oh, that would be an irritating day. So I'm glad that that's not the reality that I'm gonna be dealing with come Super Bowl Sunday. Amen. Amen. Yeah. 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 Shout out to Sam Donaldson, boy. He proved them all wrong. He really did prove them all wrong. And I think that's also pretty nifty when that happens, when a quarterback finally finds their place and everything, is firing on all cylinders. This season for the Seahawks was an unequivocal success. It isn't we had a 7-9 record, but somehow squeaked in, as a wild card. Nope. Nope. We dominated. We dominated all season long. So yeah, go Hawks. It's great. Puts people in a good mood, People get their Seahawks spirit on. That's always fun. So, let's see what else is going on in the news. Same old, same old. How many of you are on the East Coast or in the Midwest or otherwise being affected by snow? Does anybody get to stay home tomorrow? We've got nothing here. It's been very cold, but bright blue sky for several days. It's kind of off-putting in a weird way. It's kind of like, bright and sunny again. Odd. Proflange 5. I've been baking for 36 hours straight. That's the way to go. You're home until at least Wednesday. That's fantastic. School is canceled. School also canceled. Y'all got like 22 inches or some crazy nonsense. 1 to 2 feet. Yeah, baby. Oh, there's no snow. Okay. Aren't you in Arizona or are you in Texas? I can't remember. Yeah, there we ain't got nothing going on here. I mean, obviously I don't know, but when we have 4 or 5 days of cold but bright sunny weather and it's been pretty much just starting to really dip into winter temperatures. Our fall was very late, still kind of happening. I see buds sprouting, so that's not good. I don't know if we're gonna get snow this year. Okay, you're in San Antonio, Texas. Yeah. Maddie said, I still gotta work. Wow, macaroons, molasses cookies, peanut butter cookies, yum, lemon cookies, apple pie, quiche. Hey, sounds good to me. Yeah, I just, my biggest thing is I hope people just stay safe and, be careful if your power goes out and you lose heat and all that stuff. Um, we haven't had a snow like that in so long. When I was a little kid, it used to happen. It seemed like every single year we would just get feet of snow. Um, Not anymore. Not anymore. Not in the urban and suburban areas anyway. Oh, baby, that shit's gonna fail. I just hope it's not for a long time. How about that? Okay. Okay. I mean, I hope it doesn't either, but let's be realistic. They didn't do shit to fix it after the fact, right? Not really. Put a little bit of duct tape on it. That don't count. Okay. So, yes, I'm fingers and toes for y'all down there in Texas, any part of Texas. Jesus Christ, Texas. Sheesh. Yeah. So everything seems to have kind of happened on a delayed timeline. They were predicting people are going to wake up Saturday to certain disaster. Seems to have been taking a little bit longer. Hopefully that means systems aren't going to be as impactful, but who the fuck knows? The 22 inches of snow is fucking impactful. So, yeah. Yeah. But shit like a whole grid collapse and that shit is scary. And it's like I said, it's been a while. I think my kids were little. The last time we had like a snow and then rain and then everything froze and then everything broke. And then of course everybody's power went out. Like those were the sequence of events, right? Snow, then rain, then everything freezes, and then everything breaks. Yeah. And then it takes a minute. And then it can take a minute. And it's extremely frustrating, especially when you live in places that don't invest in their infrastructure. That's one of the things that I hate about big states like Texas and California and Florida and a couple other places, but you get my point. Texas, of course, is unfortunately, the big example for the United States. It's a fucking travesty. It really is. Unacceptable and solely based in greed. It's so pathetic that it is allowed to continue that way. Is really fucking outrageous. It really is. I'll just let you know as somebody who has no business in Texas, it pisses me off. It really does because it does not have to be that way. It's a choice. And they have every right to do that because, they still dig cellars out of ice. You know? They still go out back and fish for dinner. They have every right to troll the United States. Been there. I've been there in this situation as well too. Fridge is broke. I mean, not fridge is broke, but power's out. Put the stuff outside. Yep. Definitely done that. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what this week brings. I'm gonna be most focused on dockets, probably. Yeah, most focused on dockets because things are gonna move quickly. As I said in the live from this morning, the case that was filed yesterday where they got the TRO for evidence, they have a hearing tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So um I will be awaiting the outcome of that with bated breath. Yeah, it's rough, boy. It's really rough. A snow response in Seattle will cost you your job if you are an elected official. If you fuck up between salt and sand, if you make the wrong choice between salt and sand, you could do it in your first year. You got 4 years till the next election. I promise you, people are coming back in 4 years and they are voting you out of your position because you picked the wrong fucking thing to put on the street. Pissed off everybody. Yep, pissed off everybody. Seattle has a long memory for bad snow response, a long memory. Just holds on to it, holds on to it, and then enacts revenge whenever it can. I imagine that I'm gonna have a live tomorrow. Yeah, I imagine that I'm gonna have a live tomorrow because I think it's gonna be an eventful day. And I do wanna, try and stay on top of this. I might have more than one live. I need to go through other dockets and see what's going on and see if I wanna I don't know, I might start the day with, like, a docket roundup depending on how I'm feeling and what I got going on when I wake up in the morning. But by afternoon, early evening, I think we're gonna have a live just to kinda see what happened throughout the day. Um, yeah, yeah. Um Before the hearing? No, I don't think so. The only thing that could come onto the docket before the hearing is the government's response. The judge said if the government has a response to submit it by noon tomorrow, and the hearing is at 2. So So then there are other technical things because, as a matter of fact, Keith Ellison did file something on the docket. It was a detailed accounting of how it is they are attempting to serve all the parties and identify who is gonna be responsible. So it was a blow by blow. This is who we called first, this is who we called second, this was their response, this is who's refusing to accept service on behalf of this agency, this is what we're going to do next. Basically, just trying to put forth a show of good faith to the court that they're doing everything that they possibly can to serve all of the parties. It would appear that they've also got people in DC, and they're going to be at agencies when their doors open in the morning to, serve physically. So, things like that could come onto the docket. Somebody could file an amicus brief, that could happen as well. Um, but in terms of the parties, it would be, is the government going to file a response and objection to the TRO, or are they just going to show up and verbally argue their position? But so far, maybe it's because they're doing a little dance about who's accepting service and who's not. So far, we don't have any attorneys for the government or any of the respective agencies that are being sued. We don't have any of their attorneys coming onto the docket yet. So, of course, we'll see that happen at some point in time tomorrow. They may also ask for a continuance for a day, and they might be granted that because the TRO is going to stay in place. But they could very well come onto the docket and say, "We're not ready. We can't have papers in by noon. Can we, have an extension of time?" The judge is not going to give them a lot of time, but they'll give them a day. So that's what I would expect is gonna happen. The government may try and delay. They're not gonna get more than 24 hours out of the judge. This is an emergency situation, right? This is an emergency situation. So, you're welcome, beautiful. Yeah. There are times where I wish I were a fly on the wall and I wish I had more information. I wanna know, and I believe at some point in time we're gonna learn more. Because I also do believe that there are rats everywhere. Rats and whistleblowers, but rats too. I think these people are cocky and sloppy, and I would love to know what happens when they leave a scene like that. Where do they go? Like, physically, where do they go? What do they do? Who are they texting? Who are they calling? After the initial adrenaline has worn off and things have quieted down and people have started to peel off and go to their respective, I don't fucking know, homes, hotels, whichever. Like, what are those quiet conversations about? What are you doing? You jumping on your PlayStation and gaming? Like, what do you do? What are the text messages between federal government officials? I'm so curious about where do these people go and what do they do when they leave the scene of a murder? The agent or agents who shot Alex Pretti have been removed from the state by the feds for their own safety. I want more information. And I think we all deserve more information. I want insight, not just information. I want insight into the behind the scenes. the clapping after they've shot someone, the counting the bullet holes and not administering aid. Are you married? What do you say when you go home to your wife? What do you say to your parents when they ask you how work is going? Do your parents know where you work, or have you lied to them about what you do every day? Eventually, we're going to find out all of these things. And those are the things that will be reflected in history. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Take good care of yourselves, or a good day if you're just starting your day. Um, it's hard, but we're all still here, right? We're doing the best that we can. So thank you for being with me, and shout out to the replay crew. It was a tough one, but it was a necessary one, I believe. Um, and for those that will be able to join tomorrow, I will see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Peace.